Terence Bud Crawford officially gets turned down by Canelo Alvarez, who said he is not interested in that fight, but at the same time gets an interesting offer from the WBO 140-pound champion, Teofimo Lopez. And as I've been telling you, this thing with Canelo and Terence Crawford was not real. It wasn't a real option. It has never been a real option. And all of that talk to the contrary has been nothing but talk. But I will say that the fight with Teofimo Lopez could be very real. Let's talk about that in this video. Teofimo Lopez is feeling very froggy coming off of a very suspect win against Jermaine Ortiz, having defended his WBO World Championship at 140 pounds. Teofimo Lopez has continued not to be shy about his desire to fight Terence Crawford for the 3 belts that Terence Crawford holds at 147 pounds. And I'm liking that fight. Before I get into it, though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And if you're a longtime subscriber and supporter of the channel, thank you so much for your continued support. It means a lot. But let's get into this because why not? Teofimo Lopez is a 2-division champion, a former undisputed champion, according to the way Undisputed works, despite what people that want to diminish the young man have to say. He was a former champion of 4 major sanctioning bodies at the same time: the WBA Super Champion, the WBO World Champion, the IBF World Champion, and the WBC Franchise Champion, who the WBC, Mauricio Suleiman specifically, said was their title for the purposes of Undisputed. Anybody else in the history of boxing would have been undisputed with those accolades, except Teofimo Lopez for some strange reason. Regardless, 4 belts at 135 pounds. He beat the what people call the lineal champion, or a former undisputed champion, an undefeated fighter in Josh Taylor at 140 pounds. And it was a very good fight, a dominant performance for Teofimo Lopez. Unfortunately for Teofimo Lopez, he came out and stunk up the gym against Jermaine Ortiz in his last fight. So, of course, his stock drops again. However, Teofimo Lopez is somebody that fights to the level of his competition. And it would be interesting to see how high a competition he can fight to the level of. When he fought Vasily Lomachenko, who was roundly considered one of the top few, widely considered one of the top few pound-for-pound fighters in the world at the time, Teofimo Lopez rose to the occasion and fought at Vasily Lomachenko's level. As I just mentioned, Josh Taylor was considered to be one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. Teofimo Lopez got in there with him and fought above his level. So him calling for a fight with Terence Crawford, to me, I think should be commended. Because again, maybe he can fight at Terence Crawford's level. Maybe his youth being in his late 20s versus Terence Crawford being in his late 30s. Both of those guys coming from the same weight division, both starting and winning their first championships at 135. Both of them having been multiple weight class having been 4 belt holders in a lower weight class and a single champion at a lower weight class. They have a lot in common. And if what Teofimo Lopez is saying is true, that he's the WBO super champion, then hey man, let's see it. at least let's see Teofimo Lopez keep his word and petition the WBO to be named the mandatory. It has been 18 months since Terence Crawford had defended his WBO title against a number one contender. And that was when he fought Sean Porter, which was 3 fights ago. Since that point in time, he had fought David Avanesyan and he fought Errol Spence Jr. So that WBO mandatory should be due. And if Teofimo Lopez is the WBO super champion, then he should be able to petition for that. I don't know if he is, though, because he lost the WBO title in the ring against George Kambosos. And I know that because, well, I believe that Josh Taylor was the WBO super champion when he became undisputed. But I don't know if it's transferable in that manner and whether or not he's able to do that, right? And just go for the WBO at 147 pounds, or if that's something that had to be reissued to him by the WBO. But I mean, it could be because he's a multi-divisional champion. And if they do it, they do it. I'm 100% in favor of it. And I'm not going to completely count out Teofimo Lopez in the fight with Terence Crawford. He's a very good fighter. And again, he fights up to the level of his competition. He's a very twitchy fighter. He's an awkward fighter. He's a fairly smart fighter. And Terence Crawford is not going to be running around the ring on him, even though, again, I definitely have Terence Crawford winning that fight. But much stranger things have happened in the world, and I'll take the fight. Now, some people are making a mention of Teofimo Lopez using the N-word as it relates to Terence Crawford and calling him an ugly Nigga or whatever it was that he said. I'm going to want to make just a small statement about that towards the end of this video. We use that word too much, especially in New York City, where people are from, where everybody's calling each other that. You've got young white men calling each other that. You've got Puerto Ricans calling each other that. You've got all kind of people calling each other that. And it is something that is kind of ingrained in that area. And you hear more and more people saying that to each other and using it in that way. So, unless we just decide we're not going to use the word anymore, it's hard to judge intention from when people do that. Very hard to judge intention. And I don't really get that vibe off of Teofimo Lopez that he's that type of dude. But if somebody's offended by it, I can understand 100% why people would be offended by it. What I'm not going to be offended by or brush off is his desire to fight Terence Crawford. I think it's a good fight. The only problem about making the fight is what network would it take place on. Can you make a fight with Terence Crawford and Top Rank for that fight? But of course, Terence Crawford is going to brush it off and say, nah, that doesn't make sense, or that's, he's not being real about it. He does that pretty much with anybody that asks to fight him. But it doesn't mean that the fight won't be good and that we shouldn't get it. I'll take it. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. Please let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.